You're going to judge me, but it's fine. I'm used to that.
Always. Welcome to 5-3 Podcast. I'm Doria, joined by my former coworker turned co-host, Brittany. We are filming part 2 of our Karen Read documentary coverage where we respond and react to it. The documentary was A Body in the Snow, the trial of Karen Read. So we're going to get into the second part, which we filmed at the same time as the first part, but it was too long to release all at once. So Brittany, are you ready for this? Are you ready to get into part 2?
Let's do it.
All right, let's pick up where we left off. Here we go. So there's the butt dials between
those are so weird. Like,
between Higgins
it comes back to
Albert.
that, and I'm like,
yeah. First of all, didn't he butt dial? But then it lasted 22 seconds. Like the call lasted 22 seconds. So you butt dialed someone butt answered you, and then butt hung up, and then you butt dialed them back. Like I
don't get how you do that with an iPhone.
No, me neither. Because what do you have on the screen of your iPhone? A passcode. Is your butt that talented? Like,
I didn't think about that. Well, they 100% have passcodes because they're important police officials, obviously. Like,
or do they not?
And FBI.
That would be crazy to me.
That'd be weird.
Yeah,
that
I
would
agree.
be.
I agree.
I don't think. Oh, this goes back to last week though. I don't know any married people that don't have passcodes.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't know anybody in general who doesn't have a passcode.
Yeah.
So your butt passcoded into your phone, right? Then it called someone, and I think there was like, it was a 2-second call or a 1-second call, and then the second one was 22 seconds. It was something like that, where the first one was really, really brief. The second one was 22. Is it the amount of time that it was ringing? I was under the impression it was an actual call that got picked up.
Call time. Yeah.
Okay. How does your butt dial the phone and someone else answer the phone and then call you back, and then you pick it up again and then hang up again? Like, how is your butt doing these things? What? And they were like, well, we were being intimate. What? On your phone? You throwing your phone on the bed and then like rolling around on it, and magically your butt is like doing all this fancy stuff on. To me, that was like right, like his elbow, her knee, like I mean,
just magically enters the passcode.
Right. It sounds like when you catch a child doing something and they're like, oh, the cookies fell onto the floor and then rolled down the hallway and magically under my door, and then the cat picked it up and put it on my bed, but I wasn't eating it. And it's like, what? It did what? What is this like? What are those things where it's like all those things trickle down into like the ball rolling into the bookcase, which knocks something like that. No, that to me was like the strangest story of the whole thing. The butt dials, like how does that happen? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Then we know that Brian Higgins gets rid of his phone and his SIM card, takes his SIM card out, right? Mm-hmm. It sounds like he tried to destroy the SIM, puts them both in a trash bag, and then drives through a military base. Now he's ATF, right? He's a federal agent. So, and I was talking to my husband about this. I'm like, okay, so first of all, not just anybody can drive onto a military base. You're not just like strolling onto a military base up here for funsies. But in theory, he's a federal agent. I don't know. Would they have let him on? Maybe. I'm very curious as to what military base it was, because we know where they all are up here. By the way, our military bases aren't like, it's not a convenient way to get anywhere. They are large. They have huge areas because of all the stuff they do on them. And how is it convenient to go through it? Like, where are you going? That you're just like, I'm going to go through this massive military base. And, oh, wait, there's a trash can. Just throw this phone and the SIM that I've tried to destroy that's already in this garbage bag. I don't know why I garbage bagged them up to keep them together. Yeah. But I was telling my husband, like, obviously the military does not dispose of their trash through like waste management, I would assume. Like, I don't think they're using like, the big truck to come and like take it. So, in theory, I would assume it's because of the way that is disposed, and also the access people would have to it. Yeah. So sketchy.
So weird. And it was the day before he was about to be subpoenaed. The day before his phone was subpoenaed, right?
Do I think that maybe what he was trying to hide on his phone had nothing to do with this? Possibly. Oh, yeah. I think we all thought it. Like, ATF agent, there's a lot of opportunity for some not great things to be on that phone. Yep. But I think we all agree that is not the right move.
100%. It's very incriminating. But to 100%. Your point, I don't know if he was trying to hide something associated with this, or if it was just he had some very sketchy things going on.
Right.
And I think the other thing that was kind of flagged before was them rehoming the dog, which I love puppies.
Yes.
But I also didn't know that dog got into a dog fight on their lawn the week before they rehomed it.
But was that actually proven that it happened? Because I thought they said it happened. Did someone actually say they witnessed it? Because here's the other thing. Why is your dog, there's no fence on that yard, right?
Yeah.
We have leash laws in almost every single town, first of all. Second, they had a fenced in backyard. You're telling me you were either walking your dog in the middle of January or that dog was hanging out by itself in the front yard? Like that to me seems so strange.
They had the dog that when the dog attack happened, they said it was in like April or May. It was
I thought
3
it was
months
a week
after.
Before.
No, so they rehomed the dog a week after the dog fight, and they said, they redid it in May or March or whatever. So it was another time.
Like 3 months. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's March. Okay. Maybe March. So they rehomed the dog eventually. I don't understand why they rehomed the dog at all. Like, what would be the motivation? So someone said it was because they were concerned about dog DNA being able to be matched, right? Like, that's why. First of all, how can we not track that dog down?
Yeah.
Like, where is that dog? Does anybody know that it was actually rehomed?
They couldn't pull dog DNA from his clothes, right? Like, they look for the dog's saliva DNA.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which could, in theory, be treats, sure.
Right.
That makes sense.
Right. Or, like, honestly, I don't, that was a weird one to me. I was like, pig DNA on your sweater, your sweatshirt, whatever it was. That's interesting. I don't understand the dog being rehomed. That was weird to me.
See, I think that actually strangely makes sense to me. If you have a dog that they had already known was not nice with strangers, not nice to people.
Sure.
I've had a reactive dog, and granted, I didn't rehome him, but it is a lot. And so there's also a huge liability where someone can sue you if your dog bites them, and you lose everything if your assets aren't in a trust. So I think there's a liability component, and he's very likely,
for sure,
very much aware of that. And I'm sure the dog attack was probably the final straw where they realized they just couldn't control the dog. They couldn't get the dog to kind of be acclimated to living in a neighborhood and being the dog that was like a happy little German Shepherd. And I think they probably found that they just weren't the best fit for it. So that to me actually makes a lot of sense, because why would you wait 3 months and then decide to rehome the dog instead of just doing it right away if your dog was involved? Like, you can't subpoena a dog.
Yeah. So much of what they did, though, didn't make sense to me. Like, the timeline, it was very clear that they were kind of disorganized in the lies that were told, like things like, so I don't know, like, it's almost like the disorganization almost makes sense as to why they would have waited months, because let's say in theory, this is a conspiracy and they were framing her because of something that they were at least aware of, if not participating in.
Yeah.
They might have thought they were going to get away with it. Like, there was no world, I think, where they thought that anyone was going to question whether or not she was guilty once they pointed the finger at her, simply because of the way that we do tend to handle things when it comes to police officers. I don't think they thought anyone was going to dig into it that much. And I don't know if they knew her well enough to know how much she would fight it, because she is a fighter, no matter what you want to say about her. Like,
100%.
She is not going to lay down and take this. Like, there's no world. But the dog thing was weird. I do feel like, can we substantiate that there was a dog fight or, dog attack? And 2, why can't we figure out where that dog is? If you rehomed it, wouldn't you know where it went?
Yeah.
To me, that would be a simple way to be like, hey, we actually rehomed this dog. It's with this family. Here they are. The family was like, yeah, we have this dog. Also, how old was the dog?
Yeah. I mean, unless it went to a shelter. The shelter's not going to release that information. In theory, they could if it was subpoenaed, potentially.
I feel like there are ways that they could definitely at least substantiate their claims to some degree, right?
Yeah.
Like, somewhere. So that's a weird one to me, the whole dog situation. And then there's Trooper Paul, the one who took the car apart.
Oh, poor buddy.
Poor nervous Paul.
I felt so bad for him. He was so uncomfortable and so nervous.
He was. However, I do feel like one of 2 things must be true. He was either asked to be an expert in an area where he has no expertise, like no formal expertise, or he genuinely thought he had expertise and then come to find out, like, not so much. But his testimony was so painful to watch. I felt very badly for him. I think everybody probably did, regardless of what he was saying. But there was no substantial evidence or data in what he was sharing. It was kind of like, well, it's this, but I don't know because I don't know. And I was like, what is this? I don't understand.
Yeah, he was, he was dead in the water. I felt so bad for him. And Ugh, just watching
Yeah.
somebody be so uncomfortable and talk so fast because they're so nervous and kind of mumbling through it.
Yeah.
It, uh,
Yeah.
he, and then I just felt so bad at the fact that the defense was like, so tell me about your education. What do you like? What is your degree and what did you do? And I'm
That was
like,
intentional though, because they brought
I
in like
know what.
PhDs, right? Like
I
they were
get
like,
that.
buddy, you have no formal education. Here's some PhDs.
Yeah.
It was obviously a calculated move,
Oh, for sure.
but
But
I
this poor
don't
guy's
think Paul will
embarrassed
want
on the
to.
stand. Like, I get it. They had to take away his credibility.
Right.
It's the job.
It's a
But it
woman's
was
life
still
at
just,
stake, right? Like
yeah, that's
ultimately,
fair.
we don't have the death penalty, but she would
Yeah.
theoretically, I think, get life in prison,
Yeah.
right? I think it's
So
what
they
they're
said
going
she
for.
would potentially get life, but she would be eligible for parole with second degree.
At like what age though? Because she's already 40 something. So like what, her 70s? Yeah, that's
I don't know.
most of your
I
life.
don't know.
I don't either.
Her
But
productive years, as
her
she calls
productive.
them.
Okay. I mean, well, hey, you know what? She's a hard worker. She owns her own home. Like you've got to give her that. She's in finance, which is a no nonsense business, and she owns her own home. So in her mind, like every goal she has for herself is out the window during those years that would be taken. I mean, I wouldn't want to be in prison, so who am I to judge?
I agree.
Yeah. But yeah, Paul was out of his element. Okay, one of the things to me, and maybe it's just connecting dots that shouldn't be connected, was that the prosecutors were not prepared to have to put up a fight. To me,
Oh, not
the
at all.
prosecutor himself, and they talked about it, right? Like they're not
Yeah.
grand storytellers, like a private attorney might be. However, his closing argument, he didn't even hit the.
He got cut off.
He got cut off.
The way they edited that though was
Oof.
absolutely brilliant because you understand
Yeah.
the thought process. Like
Yep.
you see the cards, you see the points. He's timed. He's
100%.
He is so
on it.
eloquent.
Yeah.
He looked fantastic, and you see
Yes.
how much time. And they're like, "What killed me?" They're like, "You still have 1:30 to spare."
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
they cut to the
Yep.
prosecution
Yep.
with, "I'm sorry, you're out of time." He's like,
Yeah. But I
"What?"
have one
Oh,
sentence
she warned
left.
him. She's like, "You have 1 minute left."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Okay." And she's like, "You're at
Yeah.
time." He's like, "I just have one sentence." And he's fumbling through his papers. And I'm like,
And it was so
the
deadpan
dichotomy
too.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it shows the difference, man.
It does. I don't think they thought, and maybe I'm wrong, but my observation is that I don't think they thought they were going to have to fight. I think they thought they were going to accuse, they were going to make statements, and it was going to be taken as fact, and it was going to be cut and dry. She's guilty. And what I don't think they accounted for was that there would be anyone questioning them. So like the four people who made that statement about I hit him.
Yeah.
But there's no video. That never occurred to them. Like the story about the hair, kind of weird. There's so many inconsistencies. We have literally some of the best education in the country. You're telling me that at a state level, we couldn't bring in someone else besides poor Trooper Paul? That poor guy, but also, it's interesting.
But what's interesting is when the prosecutor took this case, they were still operating under the guise that Karen was potentially going up for like vehicular manslaughter or whatever with their former attorney. And they were operating under that, thinking they were trying to get a reduced sentence until this random tipster calls them out of the blue and says, you should be looking at these people inside the house instead.
Yeah.
That to me was just, I want to know who that person is.
So
obviously they can't share it.
Yeah.
Right? Like attorney-client privilege. Yep. I want to know who it was. I want to know what their credibility is. Like, I need to know that. It was enough to send the lawyers down this path and do a good enough job, which gives this angle some very serious credibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also, it's tough.
It is.
She's also not likable. I'm just going to say it.
Okay.
I like
Let's
her.
circle back to that in a minute, though, because I do think it's worth actually really funneling in on that. So let's move to deliberation and the verdict. Okay. They only deliberated in total for, I believe, 6 days. And then was it 2 days in or 3 days in where the jury came forward and said, hey, we can't reach a conclusion.
Just 3 days in, yeah.
Yeah. And then the judge says, hey, go back and try again, right? Which I think is very valid. I don't think 3 days was enough. I understand. Let's be serious. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to call us out. We are hard-headed and stubborn up here. We have very resolute ideas about right, wrong, moral, ethics, whatever. And I guarantee you part of the split was probably I'm a husband, wife, aunt, uncle, relative of an officer versus I am not. And therefore, whatever. I think also what really might have tipped some people over was all of the stuff with Trooper Michael Proctor and what he said about her, because it was very targeted towards a woman. It was very sexist and misogynist. And so I'm sure that that probably made some people feel like, well, is this actually unshakable truth, or is this kind of manipulated and doctored in part by someone who is actually removed from the whole process because of what he did from his conduct? So they come back day 6 and they still say they cannot reach a conclusion, they cannot reach a consensus, and it would essentially ask them to potentially waver on their truths, to ask them to continue to go back and, go back and forth on it between them. And they say, okay, it's a mistrial. So they're going to come back and they're going to begin the trial all over again, April 1st. But what we know that means is that now, and they've got a new prosecutor, right? And I guarantee you, this guy is not going to be going over at the end on his closing statement.
Oh, yeah.
They know exactly what the tactic was the first time with the defense. Now, do I think the defense is actually going to come back 10 times harder? For sure.
Oh, yeah.
But it does give the prosecutors a bit of an idea of how much they have to go up against.
Yeah.
This is going to be, I think, very, very interesting and very heated. And maybe some things will come out that we have no idea about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Would you have been able, we saw snippets, right? But do you feel like you would have been able to declare your opinion on it based on what we know was presented to them? Whether you feel like it was undeniable that she was guilty, or the burden of proof had not been met.
I know exactly how I'd feel in that courtroom based off of what was presented.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want me to tell you?
Do you feel comfortable?
Yeah.
This is just based on what was presented. Yeah, sure.
No, based on what was presented, I don't think there was beyond a reasonable doubt. I don't think there was enough beyond a reasonable doubt to say that she did it.
I agree. I have a theory that if they had gone for a lesser sentence, that they would have committed. I think she would have been convicted. I think it was the heightened
She
risk.
technically was up for 10 though, wasn't she?
I don't know.
I think they went with the most severe is kind of what they were running with. Yeah. But I know they mentioned that she was also up for something related to vehicular, or something related to drunk driving. She was also
valid.
Leaving a crime scene potentially, all of these different charges that stacked up. So I don't know how that works. If they just go with the most severe out of all of them, or if it's just
I thought it's I thought so too, on this count guilty on this count.
Same.
It sounds like they does anybody argue that she was drunk driving? I think she says she was drunk driving.
Oh, she fully acknowledged that she was.
But okay, so what I think would have been, and again, this is my uneducated opinion, I think if they had gone for a lesser sentence, I think she would have been convicted. I think people would have felt more comfortable saying okay, the burden of proof has been met beyond a reasonable doubt for this.
Yeah.
But I think that I think the stakes were too high. Would the prosecutor ever try to reach some sort of settlement or agreement if they saw it coming? Were they so certain that they were going to get a conviction? I don't know enough about the state versus an individual versus two individuals against each other. I know there's now a civil suit between John's parents and her, which I know nothing about aside from that. But are they going to go for the same thing? Do they have to go for the same thing in the next trial? Could they go for a lesser sentence and really come with proof geared towards that, or does it have to be the exact same thing? I actually don't know. Maybe I should ask my older half sister. She's an attorney. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how that works.
I don't know. Yeah. I feel like you can be charged for the same thing. But if you're convicted, you can, because it's double jeopardy.
Right, double jeopardy. Thank you for that movie, because now I understand what double jeopardy is. But no, I don't know how that works at all. It's going to be very interesting to see how this works. Let's talk about Karen Reed and your opinion of her. Let's talk about what we think this documentary may have done or not done for her. So let's hear your opinion on this. I know you have it.
So going into this, I liked her. I felt bad for her.
Really? Okay.
Oh my God. I was like, this is awful. I can't believe the way that this was all explained and laid out to me previously. I was like, this is awful, because let's be real. There's a lot going up against all of these other people. I'm like, this is a hot mess. It could easily come on. Maybe it is a conspiracy. I don't know. Regardless of all of that, going into this, I'm like, I feel bad for her. This is an awful situation for her to have to like potentially be set up by these people. Like, this is fascinating, conspiracy theories,
Right.
like all these things. But within 5 minutes of that thing starting, I was like,
Yep.
oh, this is going to be rough.
Yeah.
And I've said this, she is not likable in any way, shape, or form. And it's not because she's direct. And again, it could be what they edited. But also, if there's a camera on, like, I watch enough reality TV. We all watch reality TV. We know this. If there's a camera on you, you are mindful of what you say.
Yeah.
You are not smiling constantly. You're not chuckling because Al reached out and wants to do a story on me. Should I do it? Hell yeah. Like, man, you are on your way to court for potentially, like, you're accused of manslaughter, right? Take that seriously. There was no sense of somberness. She went in and she was very arrogant, in my opinion. The fact she laughed at one point and the judge had to ask her, or is there something funny here? Like, what are you laughing at in court? I get why some of the jurors probably didn't like her after that, right?
Sure.
I think that when she's talking to the camera, it's very much like, me. Yeah. She likes the spotlight. She likes to be the center of attention. And I think that was also part of why she liked Higgins. He gave her attention. She likes attention.
For sure. Oh, we didn't talk about that. Yeah. Let's talk about that for a real quick second. So what was your opinion and take on that whole thing between Brian Higgins and Karen Reed and their little gross text flirtation? What was it like? Was it 2 weeks before he was found?
Yeah. It was relative. It was something like that.
Yeah.
I think she's drunk. I think she'd admitted at one point she was drunk when she had sent those messages to him anyway. So
seems like it was a pattern
there. Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. But whatever. I think she wanted attention. I think she was jealous of the fact that her boyfriend had taken in his sister's children. So she wasn't getting all of the attention. She didn't want to share the spotlight. She didn't want kids because she knew she'd have to share that spotlight. Somebody else who she explicitly said, we are both single. We don't have kids. Like, we don't have responsibilities, gave her attention that she didn't get from her partner. I think there wasn't a deep romance. There wasn't a deep connection because there are other text messages between them that didn't even come up in this like specific documentary where she's pulling back from him. Yeah. Like, it's attention-seeking behavior.
Yeah. What's interesting to me is her justification for being able to have these conversations. I think she even said it in the interview was, we're not married. We don't share a home and a mortgage. Yeah. But at the other side of it, she's also accusing him of cheating. So I think, again, I think she's a very emotionally driven person. I think she's probably so objective and she's probably a shark professionally. Oh, I think when it comes to her personal life, she's a hot mess. And I think it came out. Yeah. And I think she probably was exactly what you're saying. I think she was looking for attention. I think he was going to give it to her. I think she knew exactly how to get it from him. He was an easy mark. Let's be serious. Like, he gave her what she wanted. He was a little like careful, you know, in some of the messages, but like, let's be serious. She got what she came for.
Yeah.
But what's interesting to me is I personally didn't buy into the whole like, oh, this makes him look like he was targeting John because of her. Like, I wasn't that deep. Like,
it was not.
They weren't. Like, yeah, they're not running away to like Maine together. Like, there was no, you know, deep like connection there. I think it was, oh, you're easy and you'll give me attention now, and you come with no baggage, so you can just give me complete unfiltered attention in this moment. Cool. And then she got what she came for and she, you know, walked away. I do think that when they show them coming to arrest her, just circling back really quickly.
Yeah.
When they show them coming to arrest her and she's in her pajamas and she says she's not even wearing underwear. Like, can I just go get some underwear? That's a valid thing. Like, as a woman, wearing like just your sleeping shorts and like, you know,
100%,
no bra, like that's so vulnerable as a woman.
Yeah.
And I feel like I don't think she has mass appeal. I do think that it would have maybe she had one, but I think it would have benefited her to have someone consulting her on the optics of her behavior.
Oh, you mean some media training?
Yes.
Because Doria, you left out the most important part of when she was arrested.
Which part?
She talked about all of those things, like she's not wearing underwear, like she wants to get dressed. Her concern was, I don't want to be on the 5
Channel
o'clock news in my slippers.
News. Yeah, in her slippers.
I don't want them to see me in my slippers.
Is it okay? So I'm just going to throw this out there. Do we know that there is no element of like neurodiverse something playing into this, because
Mm.
she seems extremely disconnected. She doesn't have awareness. She has no self-awareness, but it seems like she's very disconnected at times emotionally and also highly volatile at the same time. That manic swing for me was actually a lot. So an element of that was like her getting erratic with John, thinking he's cheating on her, calling 53 to 54 times. That is extreme. That's so extreme. But on the other side, what I was expecting was her to be like, what we really need to be talking about is who killed my boyfriend and
Mhm.
letting me mourn his loss.
Yeah.
And maybe it wasn't edited in. Maybe she had those moments and it just didn't make great TV. Maybe she is easy to paint as a villain. That could be true too. And let's be serious, women
Mhm.
do tend to get painted as, cold bitches quite frequently because it's convenient. But those moments did happen. So it's like, did they string together every moment they could find? Is that all there is to her? Did they not show her humanity? They did show it at the end where she's actually crying and looks very authentically like upset at the end.
Oh, but why was she crying and upset, Doria?
Right, for herself. That's what I'm saying. Like, again, I am not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I do think maybe there's something there to that. It does seem like the lack of sadness over him was not highlighted in the documentary. I will say that. I don't know if it existed. It would have been nice to me if they had shown it, if it did occur, because it
Mhm.
felt bizarre that it never was.
I've never seen a documentary where somebody's on trial and smiles and laughs so much. And so one of the scenes that
Yeah.
got me, they were on the courthouse steps, right, coming
Mhm.
out. And a
Mhm.
news person interviews her and says, "So did you do it?"
Yeah.
It reminds me of one of the scenes from Chicago. "But did you do
Mm.
it?"
Yeah.
She never says no. She says, "We're going to hold, like the cops are in this, all these other
Yeah.
things." She never once says, "No, I did not do this." Her lawyer has to say, "And she didn't do it."
Right. Is it because
She also
she's
never
kind
once
of
says she never
smug?
did it. She is smug, but
I
she
don't
never once says it. All she says that entire time
Yeah.
is, "I don't remember. I was drinking. I don't remember. I don't remember." She has never once in that
Does sh
entire thing. I
Right.
don't think she ever says like,
I don't think
"There
she
is no way I did
knows.
this." And
I
that's
actually Right.
yeah.
I don't think she knows whether or not she did it. I think that there's a part of her that's like, could I have done this? Also,
Yeah.
clearly, if you are blacking out to that degree, you need to get some help.
Yeah.
That's a fact. Like, that should have actually been something they talked about. Like, hey, she's going to
Yeah.
AA. She is in a program. This is, and okay, you know what
Yeah.
killed me the most? When she said she wanted to either go home or whatever and get a drink. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, to me, that fell so flat with me, because whether or not she did do what she's being accused of or not, her behavior, the fact that you are getting so inebriated that you do not know whether or not you hit a person with your vehicle, tells me that there's a problem there. And no one should be enabling her and chuckling along with her when she says she wants a drink.
Mhm.
Your life is in the balance because you have a problem, and that's sad. That's horrible. I say this as someone who like has family who has had addiction issues and alcoholism and all of that. Like, don't laugh with her when she says she wants to go have a drink. She's literally in court because she potentially played a part in her boyfriend's demise and doesn't even recall.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe she said that. That like, it shocked me that she said it, and it shocked me more that no one flagged it and said like, "Hey, no."
Mhm.
It's crazy to me. I don't know. I don't think she's likable. I don't think she has to be likable, though. So I don't think she should have to be likable, is what I should say. I do not think whether or not someone is a likable person should play any part in whether or not
Oh, for
we've
sure.
met the burden of proof of proving whether or not someone
100%.
did something. However, what we know is that people filter things through association and likability, and
Mhm.
she is a hard character to like. Now, she is being judged by a group of her peers. I'm going to be very honest. I'm from a different part of Massachusetts. There's a lot of bias between different areas of Massachusetts.
Mhm.
When I heard about this, I absolutely, part of the reason why I wasn't interested is because I was like, okay, it was these two people from these areas drinking heavily, and everybody was just, again, inebriated. And I don't want to know about this because this is a messy thing.
Yeah.
And so my perception of her was like, she's a messy person, he's a messy person, everybody else around them was messy. It was a lot. But she's being judged by people who are probably pretty familiar with honestly them, like the area that they're in.
Mhm.
I don't know. How do you find an impartial jury now?
You
You
don't? I don't think
can't.
you can.
No. No. They were talking about how they're coming up with the questionnaire for jury selection because they both have to agree, right, on every juror. I think that's going to be one of the hardest tasks by far because there's no way, one, you know about the trial. Obviously, it's a mistrial.
Yeah.
Like, you know about the trial. Second of all, you have to have some sort of opinion unless you are the most objective, unbiased human being, which I don't think we are up here. I think, if anything, we are so full of opinions on everything.
Fair.
I don't know. Maybe they land on, what is it, 12 jurors total? Is it
I think
12?
so.
6 and 6. 6 that you want, 6 that I want, and we just hope we convince additional people. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
Curious to see how it all plays out, but
Yeah.
I don't think this did her any favors.
So you don't think it did her any favors? Do you think
At
that
all.
this... Oh, you know what we didn't talk about was the influencer. What is his name?
Turtle
Crap.
Boy.
Turtle Boy. Okay, who I did not know. I did not know Turtle Boy existed. I'm sorry. I did not think that it was appropriate for them to be going after witnesses in like their children's games and things like that. Like, I think it was like a cross game or something.
Yeah.
That wasn't appropriate to me. However, given who she is up against, there was a part of me that was like, well, if anybody's going to be in your corner and actually like shed some light on your perspective, does it kind of even the playing field a little bit? Maybe. Is it valid?
She was talking to him directly. Her lawyer told her not to, and she still did it. Like,
we know she's smug, right? She's arrogant and she's smug.
Yeah.
And I think she can be innocent and arrogant and smug, but I think she is arrogant and smug. And maybe her attorney is like, hey, let's be serious. Like, when you're working with someone in a case like this, you've got to have them pretty well profiled, and you know their weaknesses and you know their strengths. They must know this about her. They must know how she plays in the courtroom, on TV. Yeah. And maybe they're like, this is the area that we know we're going to take an L on, but this is where we're going to win. Yeah. I don't know. But her attorney is on it. Mm-hmm. I mean, her group of attorneys, her whole legal team. I mean, you'd have to, right? So
for sure. It's expensive.
Yeah. Oh, well, I wondered if that's why she sold her house, because I read that she sold her house in Mansfield.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, in 2024. So I would assume that that's probably in part motivated by that. I would assume. I don't know. Maybe
it's also probably why she did the documentary.
So, okay, I wondered about this. How do you offer monetization on something like this? Because she has life rights right now, right? Like, it's her story, but it wasn't just her story. It was actually just the trial. So how does that work? Because did his family benefit from it at all? I think they should. I think the real victims are his parents and his niece and nephew.
I'm sure anyone that interviewed probably benefited in some way, some more than others. But
yeah, the ex-girlfriend with her lipstick and curled hair. Again, I don't think she should have been on. I think that was inappropriate. She added no value and she wasn't actually involved. To me, it just looked like an ex-girlfriend that was hung up on an ex-boyfriend that wanted to be a part of the story.
Yeah.
You know?
No.
But I don't know. This is going to be so interesting. So how does jury duty work? Is it anybody in the state? Is that your peer?
Your county.
That's so small up here. You've seen the size. Well, no. Have you seen the size of our state? Matt, do you remember which one we are? We're the one with the arm. We're the one with Cape Cod. So
sure.
That's not that. Okay. It's not a huge area. I mean, and no, everyone does not know each other per se, but the degrees of separation are very small. You've already had a jury with alternates. I would assume if you were an alternate, you cannot be on the second jury or an alternate. Yeah. So, and you've got people who are camped out. Who's that?
They'll probably move it because there's been other trials where they change. Yeah, they definitely can because it's the state, right? And so it's a state-run prosecution.
They moved in because there's been Boston. They could not keep the three-ring circus out of the city. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of where the courthouse is in comparison because I worked in the financial district.
Yeah, because there's been requests to move to a different county, to a different location because the area has been tainted. And there's been a few major cases where that's happened.
You know where they should go? If I were them, I would be like, I want to go to the northwestern corner of Massachusetts, basically in the Berkshires. Like, that's where I want to go, because I guarantee you a bunch of those people do not give a single shit about what's going on. Like, they're living their best lives in peace and harmony in beautiful mountains. That's what I would want. I would want to go out there. Anybody
Fair.
east of there is going to know. We're such a small state. We really are, you know? So I agree with you. I don't think the documentary necessarily did her any favors, but I don't think it did her any favors. Do I think it did her case a favor? Possibly. Because seeing it all strung together like that, the inconsistencies for me, I'm going to be honest, I actually had zero opinion on whether or not I thought she was guilty or innocent. I did have an opinion on whether or not I thought this kind of conspiracy could happen up here. I do think it could. But seeing that and seeing how shaky their evidence was, the lies, the very bizarre behavior, it actually made me feel like, you know what? I could not convict her.
Yeah. Which is kind of the goal, right? I think that was, even going into it, I thought she was 100% innocent. Even now, I'm like, there's some weird stuff that I still have. I don't think anyone did it. I think which sounds kind of weird.
Okay, what do you think happened? What do you think? Because I have a theory too. What do you think happened?
So I also want to know where the shoe prints are. Like, where are his footprints showing he walked into the house? Why do those not exist anymore? That's my first concern. But also, to your point earlier, it's very hard, which also means the ground is very slippery, right?
Maybe. Well, we had a lot of, so it wouldn't have just been ice. So a blizzard has to be X amount of snow in a very consolidated period of time. It builds up very quickly here. So it was probably, it looked like it was maybe 1.5 feet or so, maybe 2 feet, which is not that bad. I mean, it's a decent amount, but it's not, we've had more.
So I have a theory where I think he went to the house. She explicitly said with her. She said he took the glass with her. So I have no doubt that he got out of that car. I think he may have tried to go in through the smaller door, like she called out. Everyone was in the main house. She said it looked like nobody was home. There was nothing crazy happening. I think he went in. I think the dog might have been there. And something might have happened. She's not paying attention. She thinks he's not coming back out, but at some point he walks out, he slips, and he hits his head. I think it's an innocent, like, he saw the dog, he skirted back, tried to run away, something of that nature. He's there, and he genuinely hit his head. She did not see him because she was so angrily waiting for him at that point, where she's like, where is he? She's trying to call him. She's not paying attention. And snow makes things incredibly quiet. Right? Yes. Like, snow it's very dampening, right? I love it. That's part of why I love it. So if he's coming out because he's injured, he's like, this is BS, I'm leaving. And he's holding said glass, and he slips because he was still holding the glass when they found him. It was right next to him. That, to me, it seems like she probably didn't see him when he came out. She was so disoriented. The guy who was picking up that other random girl, his sister, saw her sitting there in her car. There was her boyfriend was nowhere to be found. So my assumption is he was in there, or he had already slipped and fallen at some point there, and no one realized he was there. And she drove off.
Okay.
So therefore, technically, nobody is involved. They all think the other person's guilty.
How did the taillight get there?
I think she backed into the car. I think,
no, how did it get there next to him?
That's right.
Okay. I have a theory.
Oh, you're right. I lied. I'm so wrong. Go ahead.
Okay. So this is what I think happened, or some version of it. I think some of the details don't matter. So I think they pulled up. They're both inebriated. She's irritated because as you drink, sometimes people get more volatile, and they're bickering a bit. I think he took the glass, and I do think he went in that house. Now, I think at some point he either hurt because he had scrapes on his arm, right? It was either the dog, or it was something so stupid, like he slipped on the steps and scraped it on those brick steps, which a lot of us have here. By the way, most of us have more than 2 front doors. Like, we have 2 front doors. It's a thing in New England. There's a casual one and there's a formal one. You actually rarely go in one of them. You always use the other one, and often it isn't the one you think. So I think he hurt his arm, and I think it has nothing to do with anything else other than the fact he hurt his arm in whatever incident. I think she waited, got pissed off, and in a drunken rage sped out, right? I think she absolutely did like a quick 3-point turn, booked it out of there, and she's like, I'll show him. Gets home, and then she's like, wait, you're not chasing after me? Call, passes out. Meanwhile, I think he goes back out for round 2 with her, and she was parked on the curb, right? So I think he walked out to where he thought she was. I think he slipped, holding the glass. I think he hit his head, and I think he either threw up and asphyxiated or whatever. He died of hypothermia because he was out there. I think everybody was so drunk and the snow was falling so fast. You're not like looking around the yard. When it's coming down that hard, you're just rushing to get inside because it's cold and it's wet, right? I think people went inside, at some point realized he wasn't there, realized he was outside. And I do think there was an element of evidence being planted because they did not want to be implicated for an accidental death, because it's not a good look given what all of their jobs were. And I think she, not being a friend of the group and not being in the inner circle, made sense to finger point at, right? So that's what I think happened, because the shoe coming off, like, your shoe can come off in the snow 1,000%, by the way. Like, sometimes you step down and it literally grabs your boot, your shoe, whatever, it comes off. They said it wasn't consistent, like the markings on his body with, like, you know, being hit by a car. I do think that the taillight was potentially planted there. He obviously had his glass. I don't think that they're not forensic detectives. Like, they didn't know how to set this scene up to be whatever. Also, it's the middle of a blizzard where they're collecting this evidence in solo cups from Stop and Shop and using a snowblower to like gradually blow away the snow and like all this stuff. They didn't even dig out the shoe until I think it was like days later. There's a lot of stuff there that's very weird. But I do think his actual death was an accident. I do think the people in the house knew he died. And I think that that's why Jennifer McCabe Googled how long to die in cold, Hoss die, whatever, in cold, because I think she was trying to figure out whether or not he was definitely dead, and they didn't want to touch his body and risk being implicated if they didn't know.
Yeah.
So that's my theory.
Interesting.
So I think he died and it was an accident. I think the setup after was intentional.
That's fair. I guess we'll never know.
Well, we might. I mean, I am really curious to see what comes out. I think more will definitely come out in this new trial. I think, we didn't talk about the snowplow driver who,
sweet man.
The criticism of him where he was like so polished and collected. Of course he was, because they run you through it again and again and again and again and again so that you don't have a Trooper Paul situation. So it makes sense. I don't think that makes him incorrect or wrong or whatever. I think it makes him rehearse, which everyone there was. Unfortunately, some people just didn't rise to the occasion. I think we're going to learn more in this next trial. I think all of the loose ends are going to attempt to be tied up, all of the holes that got poked and things. But here's the thing. Are people going to admit to lying, to like perjuring themselves? Because how do you explain some of these things?
I don't remember saying that.
I don't recall.
I don't recall.
Oh, but we have the transcript right here, but I don't recall. Yeah, I mean,
don't recall saying that.
Is it going to be like 2, 3, 4, or 5 months of that? No one recalls anything.
Well, what I'm sure will happen is they will have the best experts, because I guarantee you, after people have heard about that, I can probably name a handful of people that would jump at the thought to try and look at that iPhone and look at that data and see what was collected.
Yep. And the car data too, taking it off. That's a new car with a very expensive computer in it.
Oh, 100%.
Yep. I would get Lexus out there. I'd be like, Lexus, here, do forensics on your car. Like, have your engineers come out and tell us what happened and validate and verify some of this stuff. I mean, it's going to be a circus. And unfortunately, it's going to be a circus at a national level.
Oh, yeah.
Which doesn't do
people are invested. They are. Right? Like, at this point, we're talking about it.
I really, it's so funny because I'm up here.
Oh my gosh, when it was going down in real time, I was following it, and I was so hooked because it was so fascinating, and it was just very much, if it is a conspiracy, it was done at such a sloppy but well thought out, technically. Like, if they could have gotten away with it, it would have been well done, but in theory. But it was like everything about it. Everything about this in general is so messy. The behavior of everyone that night, from the time they all decided to go out, incredibly messy. And it continues to look very messy. And I'm sure everything they did outside of that night was very messy, which is why they got rid of their phones. Like, no big deal. Casually got rid of it at an army base. I don't know. I'm curious to see what happens. I think they're both going to come in guns blazing this time around. But I'm also curious to see what happens, because you can only keep a lie and maintain consistency for so long. These people aren't actors, right?
Yeah, right.
I don't know. Someone's going to crack. If there's something there, somebody has to crack.
There's an element of, how do I say this in like a PC way? There is an element of loyalty up here
Oh, for
that
sure.
exists that I've never experienced anywhere else
Yeah.
in my life. And I'm born and raised Massachusetts native who has lived in other states, and my parents weren't from here. There is something to the lengths that some people will go for each other up here.
Yeah.
Whether or not there's familial connection, if there is another factor at play.
Yeah.
So I think there's two things that could happen here. One, they are so ride or die and do or die that they will all go down together.
Yeah.
Or one of them is going to realize that they have too much to lose and they are going to reveal a lot of things that the others do not want revealed.
Yeah.
I don't know whether or not that'll happen. I could see either being true. All I know is when this started going down, just because of my own feelings about some of the ways that the dynamics play out here when it comes to our police departments in some areas, I actually didn't want to know about it because I'm like, I don't envy that woman. I don't envy his parents who are just trying to like seek what they believe to be justice. I don't know.
Which I think that's what makes me sad. He gets lost in all of this.
He
right?
does.
At the end of it, it's free care, and it's never actually, and the justice, for him consideration is very much like it has to be her. There's
Right.
no room for anything in between where this could have
For real
genuinely been an
resolution.
actual accident.
Yeah.
What happened? What's going on? Where's the honesty in all of this? But instead, you have people who look very sketchy. You have someone who explicitly says she does not remember what happened that night. I feel so bad that he gets lost in this story, which they called out at one point in the documentary is it's always about her, right? It's let's get her off the hook. Let's do this for her.
Yeah.
And it's come off as less than what actually happened to him. Let's kind of honor this person and get to the bottom of it. But nobody wants to do that. It's very much not.
She does address that a little bit. She basically says, like, I'm the one on trial. And that's true. There is an element where I think when you're in that level of survival, narcissism kind of has to come into play to a degree. But I also think that had she had moments where she was like, I just miss him so much. I just wish we knew what happened to him. I just wish his niece and nephew got closure. His family got closure. It would have humanized her. I don't think that's authentic to her though. I think she comes off as narcissistic, and I think she comes off as arrogant, and I think that's actually probably very, very authentic to who she is. So I don't know. All right. Well, I'm curious to see how this goes. We will definitely have to keep tabs on this and continue talking about it because at this point it's fascinating and also so complicated. All right, that wraps up part 2, the final segment of our coverage of the documentary on Karen Read, A Body in the Snow, the trial of Karen Read. That was a lot. I feel like we covered a lot, and we shared our own theories about it. And you know what? Come April 1st, I think we're going to learn a lot more once this trial starts kicking off. So we'll have to continue covering this bit by bit because it's complicated and fascinating and definitely not cut and dry.
That's for sure.
It's cool. Ooh. All right. Don't forget to like and subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts. We drop new episodes every Wednesday, and we will see you next week.
Have a good one.
Bye.